We do not live in patient times. Patience is not a virtue for the people of the last days of the 21st, first days of the 21st century, first quarter. We live in days of road rage, instant information, and quick fixes. Every day seems to bring some piece of technology which quickens the pace of life and adds more complication, changing the speed at which we expect things to move. Once I was conversing with my friend, Jim, over the telephone. This was about 29 years ago. And he said the download time on his dial-up computer modem was as slow as Christmas. At the time our conversation was flowing along and I did not want to stop for a moment to hear an explanation of what as slow as Christmas meant to Jim. Later in the week, though, the phrase stuck in my mind. What was he meaning? Soon enough, I realized that my friend was describing something which is eagerly anticipated and slow to arrive. It was the kind of thing that a child might experience around the beginning of December, knowing that she will find presents under the tree on Christmas morning. As slow as Christmas meant or means waiting for the time to arrive when hopes are fulfilled. That is what Advent is alike. Advent is the season that is as slow as Christmas. The Sunday marks the first Sunday in the Advent season. It is a time of impatience. Even the word Advent means coming, implying that we are not there yet. Something has to happen. Advent shares a word origin with the word adventure, meaning you're going for something that is not present yet, something that might be a pleasant surprise. It is a time which has the feeling of expectation, and it is leading us into another holy season, that of Christmas. Advent is for many the least fulfilling of the religious seasons because it does not exist on its own. Advent tells us that something is going to happen, but we spend a long time in the airport waiting for the flight crew to permit us to board and then the airplane to taxi down the runway. Advent is not about arriving, but anticipation of the journey and the journey itself. The metaphor of airplane travel is appropriate and revealing of the impatience of our days. People become annoyed because of delays at the airport and inconveniences, which might result in time spent or even in rerouted journeys, or at worst a night spent in an airport hotel. The people of the 21st century are not a patient lot at times. Traveling is a lost art form at times like those, and one will hear fellow travelers cursing under their breath because a trip which took days and sometimes months under us only a century earlier will take an hour more. The virtue of patience is lost under such circumstances, which those of recent generations would never have imagined. Today I'm going to ask you to do a very difficult thing, and that is to forget all the seasonal trappings that surround you and seduce you into thinking that Advent has anything at all to do with Christmas, as you and I understand it. I wish that there was a way to make this all disappear for a moment. I want you to clear all this, let's get ready for Christmas stuff, all the cheer and happy expectation of something that has happened once. Clear the decks, rather, and get ready for something that has not happened, for this is also the agenda of the Advent season. Having asked you to give up the feelings which you might have had about this impatient servant season, I want you also to think about the thought that the writing from the Gospel according to Mark told us. Be alert. This passage tells us the days are surely coming, reflecting the spirit of the Advent season, when those are the words of Advent. Beware, keep alert, coming, going, journey beyond the watch, keep awake. Restlessness ensues. but it does not pertain necessarily to the Christian Christmas season. In truth, it could be noted those Advent promises have yet to arrive. We wait at the airport, staring at a screen with a constantly delayed flight schedule before us, and we become impatient. We are waiting for something which has not been completely seen, but to which we have pinned our hopes. We know that we are meant to believe in what we are meant to believe is coming. The lessons tell us, prayers tell us, hymns are full of it. Light over darkness, hope over despair, gentleness and meekness over might and power. These are the themes of Advent. We know that Advent is not meant to be merely a retrospective of things past, but an anticipation of things to come. Somehow, we hope that the church will be that place where our impossible expectation and our manifest needs are met. That is presumably why we keep coming back. We know the meek shall inherit the earth, but we do not believe that it is likely or likely to happen in any reasonable time frame. We know that we are to forgive those who have hurt us, but we also know that except in rare and wonderful circumstances, it is very difficult to bring ourselves to it. It is not our nature to be patient. I can say that because I know of very few people who are as impatient as I am. I was infamous at theological school for my impatience with those who sorted the mail. My fellow students had jobs at the seminary. They were supposed to sort the mail, but they would get around to it later in the day. They would be too busy to sort the mail into our student boxes. And often I would look down at one of those big crates containing all the mail destined for the school and realize that my day would be too busy to pass by the school again until tomorrow. And sometimes I wasn't even able to make it there tomorrow, but the next day. I might need to wait at least another 24 hours to get what was in that crate. So I would crouch down and start poking through it, looking hopefully for a letter from a friend or something interesting destined for my postal box. My impatience was legend. This is not a patient age. Some blame the declining attendance at classical music concerts to the reality that most classical music takes time to develop. It traces a musical sensation and follows it through variations on a theme. Most popular music, by contrast, is fast-paced and does not require skills in listening or in analysis. It does not require extraordinary thought or concentration. It is the spirit of our times that the average person can only concentrate a small fraction of the time that his or her grandparents could. We have lost patience. Impatience is also being programmed into us from television. I was told last week about a show that I might want to watch. I did tune in, but I found that I could not watch it. It was one shifting soundbite after another, with one person commenting and then another. The experience was jarring and told me that people's ability to process information has changed. It was as if the program was created intentionally for persons with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD. As someone who has not watched television regularly for the past 33 years, the way information was being imparted was shocking and disjointed. If you watch television regularly, then that's the way you are experiencing information, and it has changed. You are becoming less patient and less able to concentrate because you're getting bing, 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 bing with sound bites and not being given the story slowly developing. Perhaps it is tempting to think of patience as a less attractive virtue because patience might seem to some to imply passivity. We wish not merely to be spectators of somebody else's spectacle of achievement. We want to do what it takes to get things done. We don't want to hear what we must endure or bear or suffer through. We don't want to be told to wait and be alert. We want things to arrive on time and to know when they are coming. Perhaps the impatience of our time is related to the changing nature of the world. A century ago, most Americans lived in rural areas, and the plurality of people were employed in agriculture. They planted and harvested. The crops which they tended to could be stunted or lessened by drought, pestilence, flooding, or frost. The seasons were more a matter of life in times gone by. Baldwin apples, as hard as rocks, were laid aside in the autumn in New England after they'd been picked, stored in basements, because it would take many months for them to become soft enough to eat. In the winter, when food was scarce, especially fruit, the Baldwin apples were soft enough to eat, soft and tasty. Farming requires patience. Something is planted and nourished by sunlight. Water and fertilizer may or may not produce a satisfactory effect. It is the mystery of the weather and many combinations of factors which determines whether the plant consumed is tasty or bitter. Wine connoisseurs can tell the great years in the vineyard by describing the hot air that blew in from the south in 1958, or the rainy early summer followed by a dry autumn just before the grapes were picked. While patience is the essence of agriculture, the farmer is anything but passive. To farm is to live most of one's hours in and for one's work. Teachers, lawyers, generals, accountants, engineers know vocational commitment, but the farmer's is usually greater. The farmer is totally engaged with that calling. It is held in balance by two truths which are in the nature of the work. First, the harvest is the result of patience. Second, the harvest is the result of really, really hard work. Yet the farmer waits for the autumn and the spring rains. And despite the modern technologies available, there is still that. If you want to know what the difference is between impatience and patience, taste the difference between a Georgia peach and one of those awful things the California Agricultural Board thinks is a peach. I'm going to tell you that most of the food we get from California is awful. If you tasted fresh vegetables, which I haven't done most of my life, vegetables had hardly any taste. In Georgia, where I'm from, where peaches are grown properly, the peach crop is dependent more on the cycles of the seasons. The rain in the early spring, the coolness when the buds are just coming out, the sticky heat of the beginning of Georgia summer. The farms are less automated, but less irrigated than the ones in California. The California farms are in areas reclaimed from the desert. I've seen them. It's funny because you see suddenly there's just dirt and then there's a peach tree. The California farms, it doesn't matter if the rains fall because the peach grows, depend on automated water systems, water coming in from some other place. The peaches are pulled off the branches unripened, so they might ripen on the way to the market. The sugar has not. And they lose moisture and sugar on the trip. Obviously, I'm a connoisseur of peaches. The California peaches are hard. They have no sweetness and little nectar. By contrast, Georgia farmers pick their peaches when they are ripe on the branches. They have been doing for generations. A Georgia peach is larger, sweeter, and juicier than the California peach. Okay, I should be working for the Georgia Peach Board because I have enough ammunition to go after California. My wife, for a few years, every early summer, ordered peaches from a peach grove in Georgia. So I'd have the taste of what a peach tasted like. I would know that. What is the difference between these two states' peaches? Patience. It takes patience to produce fruit in season instead of rushing it to the store. It takes patience to wait for the rains to come, and more than a little faith to hope that they will. It takes patience to grow peaches in a place with seasons and the risk of an early or late frost, flooding or drought. It takes patience for family farmers with smaller plots to care for the groves, and it takes hard work. But it is worth it in the end when you bite into the fresh peach. It is also true that in the coming days, the advent of the church year is something like the world of the farmer. We look to the harvest of a coming world where promises of righteousness, justice, and safety are fulfilled. We look for the juiciness, the hope for it. We look forward to a harvest of kindness and commitment, a harvest of truth. There's no point in waiting for a return of something that never was. The Advent season is about the future, not the past. There is no hope in history, no era, no season of human adventure to which we might turn for complete satisfaction when everything worked out fine. There is no golden age for humanity in the past. Archaeologists cannot distinguish a time when humanity had it all together, when we were in paradise. If you're impatient with all that, the fact of the world, then you're not alone. For I'm impatient as well. I believe, though, that the work we are about is not going to be evident in our lifetime, but in better times to come. If we think on human history, we can see that humanity is progressing towards something better with notable setbacks. I am personally the recipient of the hard work and sacrifices of the men and women who made a world more welcoming for my presence. And so are you. Our church is the heir to previous generations who gave and sacrificed for this community in the Lehigh Valley, who worked hard and harvested good seasons and bad in order that we might enjoy the benefits of their labor. Maybe they always hoped that a world better than theirs would come into being. Ours is a better world in many ways, but a troubled world as well. We still have farther to go. That is the language of Advent, and you can understand why the world is content to leave it to us. It is not the proclamation of great things that have been, but the promise that greater things will be. You cannot build a commercial enterprise out of Advent. This is not merely looking forward to something that might happen in a few weeks, but as with the farmer, are working for that which we wait. That is what Advent is like. It is going to take a lot of work and patience for that. Advent is not the thing which triggers a marketing strategy. Come join us. You'll work hard and might never reach the goals to which you aspire. The Peace Corps has a similar marketing strategy, and proclaiming that working for them is the hardest job you'll ever love. Working for that which we wait patiently is a hard job. That is the Advent hope. Not necessarily for us, but for the future. In closing, the themes of Advent that we might need to carry into the next year are ones of patience and being alert. We can imagine that events in the coming year will try our patience, but we will need to be alert to what we can do in order to focus our energy. The people in ancient times believed that their world could change. We in our time need to hold fast to the faith that the world can change. The world we long for will take a little while.